Hello everyone. So we are going to work with greatest common factors for this lesson, and specifically for in a polynomial settings or a monomial settings. So a review GCF greatest common factor, same as what you've done in grade 8 and 9, but in terms of the polynomial and monomial, the GCF of two or more monomials, you find it by getting the GCF of the coefficients first right here, and then a coefficient, the greatest common factor of the variables, and then you put them together. Let's do a quick review of grade 8 and 9, finding GCF of these three numbers, 6, 9, and 12. If you remember, the first thing you had to do is that you had to come up with the prime factors of these numbers. So 6 has got a prime numbers of 2 and 3 goes into it. So 2 times 3 is 6. 9, the two prime numbers, is actually only 1, so 3 and 3. And 12 is 3 and 4. And 4 is not a prime, so that would be 2 and 2, but that's okay. All right. So now you look at it, okay, what are the greatest common? Okay, so the greatest common factors. That means has to be common to all of them. All right. So notice that 3 shows up here, 3 shows up here, and 3 shows up there. So in this case, the GCF of all 3 is 3. It has to be common, and it is common to all of them. Okay, now let's look at GCF of each of these monomials. So we're going to find the greatest common factors of these three monomials. All right, first we're going to deal with the numbers. We got a 3, we got a minus 9, we got a 12. We just did that. So the greatest common factor of 3, 9, and 12 is 3. All right, that's just too easy. All right. Next, we've got to deal with is the x's. So we have an x squared here, we have the x cubed here, we have the x cubed here. Now, the greatest common factor, that means that the greatest variable x that is in all of these, all right? So x3 and x3 are here, but they're not in there. But x2 is inside of x3, okay? So another way of writing x to the power of 3 from last unit is x squared times x, or x times x times x. So x squared belongs to x cubed. So that would be your GCF for the x's. All right. And then the last piece is the y. We have a y here. We have a y cubed. So y there, y cubed, y squared. Which one belongs to inside all of them? Y to the power of 1. All right. So the smallest one goes into all of these, and that is the largest, but that's what that is. All right. So y goes into y goes into y to the 4th, y goes into the y squared. So the GCF at the end is 3x squared y. Okay, let's look at another example. 12a squared b and minus 8ab squared. We're going to find the GCF. All right, first we're going to deal with the numbers. So the coefficient, the coefficient, 12 and minus 8. So the greatest common factor, notice that 4 goes into both of them. So 4. Great. Then we have to deal with a squared and a. All right, so a squared and a. This is a squared and a, and which one can go into the other one? So a has a to the power of 1, and then a squared has a in it, so a will be the greatest common factor of a squared and a. And then the last piece, which is b and b squared, same idea. We have to deal with which b goes into b also goes into b squared. So b is the greatest common factor between b and b squared. So together, all together, is 4ab is the GCF of 12a squared b and minus 8ab squared. All right, so now we're going to include or incorporate the GCF into factoring polynomials. All right, so this 3x squared minus 9x cubed my y fourth plus 12x cubed y squared, these are the original three terms that we put up there, the very first thing we did. Okay, I'm going to use that. So when we say factoring polynomials, that means we have to express that polynomial as a product. And whenever we say that, that means basically you have to come up with GCFs and write them in a factor form. All right. So what was the factor, the GCF of that? The GCF was, as we did it before, 3x squared right here. 3x squared y. All right. So this is the first step. 3x squared y. That's the GCF. And to write it as a product, we're going to open up a bracket. So that's the first thing we do. We're going to write the GCF first outside of the bracket. And then inside of this bracket, we have to have three terms. 1, 2, 3. And what it means is that you're going backwards. So now you're going to say, what do you have to multiply 3x squared y by to get 3x squared y back? Well, that's 1. So 1 times 3x squared y is 3x squared y. All right. Next, what do you have to multiply? So there's a negative there, so I'm going to put a negative sign, more or minus. What do I have to multiply 3x squared y by to get 9x cubed y to the fourth? Now let's do one thing at a time. First thing is that we got to do the number. What do you have to multiply 3 by to get 9? So that would be 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then now let's deal with the x. What do you have to multiply x squared by to get x cubed? That's just 1x. All right. So x times x squared is x cubed from the exponent laws. What do you have to multiply y by to get y to the power of 4? Well, that is y to the power of 3. Excellent. So that's your second term. Now the last term, you're going to do the same thing. So 3 and 12, so that would be 4. 3 times 4, that will give me 12. And then x squared and x cubed, so that would be x, because x times x squared is x cubed. And what do we have to multiply y by to get y squared? Y. You close the bracket, and this is now written or expressed as a product. So this original polynomial, the three terms right there, is written as a product of a monomial and a trinomial. Another example, 5x squared y squared plus 15x cubed y squared minus 10x to the power of 4 y. Let's write that express it as a product or factor this polynomial. So GCF first. Now from now on, I'm not going to write GCF as a GCF anymore. We're just going to do factoring. So what is the factor? If you want to make a note here for the last piece, maybe we should do that one more time. The GCF of all three will end up being, so between the 5, 15, 10. So 5 is the number, the coefficient. And then x squared, x cubed, x to the fourth. That would be x squared. That's the GCF of all three, x squared and x cubed and x to the fourth. And then y squared, and y. The GCF of these is going to be y. All right, so we have, let's do this. 5x squared y is the GCF, and now we're going to go through this. What do we have to multiply 5x squared y to get first term? To get this back? Well, that's just multiply that by y. Great, plus. Next thing, what do we have to multiply 5x squared y by to get this, the second term back? Okay, and that is 3x and y, because 3 and 5, that will give you 15. 3 times 5. X squared times x gives you x cubed, and y times y is y squared. And then the last one will be 2, and there's a minus sign because that's a minus 10. And then the only thing that is y and y is there, that's already common. But then the x's, we have to only multiply the x squared by x squared to get the 10x for y. All right, and this is the factor form of the original polynomial.